just look behind you and all you see is just like rain.
We just suddenly got this freak thunderstorm just out of nowhere.
When it does rain and we do get a storm like this in Las Vegas, the water comes so fast and a lot of people don't even realize it.
You can sweep a grown adult off their feet, you can wash a car down a stream. It is unbelievable how fast and how powerful water is.
Monsoon season is here and we want you to be prepared. I'm Fox 5 Chief Meteorologist Ted Pretty.
I'm Sam Argier.
I'm Les Griffin.
And I'm Cassandra Jones. We're going to get you up to speed in the next 30 minutes on every angle.
We're starting off with the most flood-prone areas here in the valley and showing you some of the issues that have caused major problems.
And how we've weathered the storms that brought big change to Clark County and transformed the way we handle flooding today.
And we live in a desert. We all know that, but Las Vegas is no stranger to incredible flooding events. I'll recap some of the worst and most recent notable floods to hit the Las Vegas Valley.
And before those storms form, we take a look at the technology used to forecast during the monsoon and how your smartphone may improve thunderstorm forecasting in the future.
If you're unfamiliar with the term monsoon, let's explain what that is. The summer monsoon is the seasonal reversal of the wind. To explain what that means, we have to look at the wind flow we see during most of the year. In the fall, winter, and spring, it comes out of the north and the west, bringing storms off the Pacific Ocean.
But as we head into the summer months, July, August, and September, that wind shifts more out of the south. That brings in more moisture, making it feel humid at times during the summer months.
And with that added moisture in place, combined with the intense desert heat, humid air rises and thunderstorms form.
And out of those thunderstorms, we can see gusty winds coming out of the storm. Also rain that's heavy enough to cause flash flooding.
When monsoon storms erupt, flooding can happen in a hurry. Sometimes this flooding is severe, damaging cars and roads. It can happen in areas that get the heaviest rain, but in southern Nevada, it can also happen in places you least expect. This is Stewart and Fogg on the east side of the valley. The morning of July 10th, 2018, it looked like this. Nearly 3 feet of floodwater stranded cars and made homeowners nervous. Ralph Loria had a front row seat.
That was the worst I've ever seen it. When there's like 3 feet of water in front of your house, it's kind of scary, you know. You're like, is it going to keep coming in? Luckily it stops. Well, it was halfway up the driveway.
The surrounding areas had about a ½ inch of rain that night, so you had a combination of the rain, the runoff, but this was the biggest problem. These grates that are plugged up when the rain does fall. The culprit, trash and lawn waste.
It's a big problem for us. We need to make sure the water stays in the storm drain, and if it can't get in, or if it's in already and then can't continue and it gets out, it's going to cause flooding somewhere.
Less than a month later on Highway 95, widespread rain sent floodwater to collect in the southbound lane. Crews closed the highway for several hours. The problem? Another drain clogged with mud and debris.
It's a constant maintenance challenge. Our crews do a terrific job. They do all they can. We do have grates, and we do regularly clean out drainage pipe and inlets and things of that nature to make sure that when we do experience a flash flood event, that it will serve its intended purpose.
We always do PSAs and other type of announcements and reach out to the public to try to make sure they use trash cans, that you know, if you throw your trash on the ground, it's going to wind up in our storm drain system.
Now, terrain plays a huge part in where flooding actually does occur in southern Nevada, and we've seen no better example of all the runoff that could cause some flooding along Highway 159 close to Red Rock. With uneven terrain and a desolate desert floor, rainwater flows here like it's running off concrete.
The more rural, less developed stretches of state highway don't necessarily have the flood control facilities in place to convey storm water away from the roadside.
The Nevada Department of Transportation crews don't build flood basins, but they do come up with ways to steer water away from the roads and bridges.
This is an area that's seeing more and more traffic, and so it's definitely on our radar and something we're keeping tabs on.
For years, the most famous flooding area in Las Vegas has been through the bottom of what used to be the Imperial Palace, now the Link. The casino was built next to the Flamingo Wash, one of the biggest washes in all of Clark County. Years ago, the flood district approached the IP about a solution. Owners declined.
Maybe just impossible to build a facility through there unless the building gets, torn down. If they decide they were going to raise that building and build something else, maybe that'll be an opportunity at that point to fix this problem.
This area has flooded for decades, but cell phones and social media enable people to share flooding pictures and video.
Looks like something's gone wrong, that something's, now all of a sudden something's flooding, but it happens quite frequently that water comes through there. It's not something that the Link doesn't expect or that we don't expect, and they just accommodate it, figure out ways to try to keep the public safe as it's going through there.
Caesars now owns the Link. We reached out, but they didn't want to comment on the flooding issue. In southern Nevada, it can flood anywhere, so stay alert on the roads when monsoon storms hit. Even if it's not raining where you are, runoff from the strong rain can flood the streets, so can a clogged drain.
A 100-year storm is a probability. There's a 1% chance of a 100-year flood event occurring in any given year. We live in Las Vegas, so let's use a gaming analogy.
So if you have a roulette wheel that has 100 slots on it, and 99 of those slots are black and 1 slot is red, if you spin that ball into the roulette wheel, you got a 1 out of 100 chance of that ball landing on that 1 red slot. And then you got a 99 out of 100 chance that it's going to land in the black slot.
You can have back-to-back 100-year events, just like if you spin the ball on the roulette wheel and it lands on red twice in a row. While the probability of that is very low, it's still a possibility that we have to be prepared for.
We're taking you back in time, how one storm changed the way we handle flooding, and what's in store for the future of Clark County.
Coming up, we'll look at some of the most recent and significant floods in the Clark County area.
So how prepared are you when driving through bad weather? Let's find out. How high does floodwater have to be before you lose control of your car? A, 6 inches, B, 1 foot, or C, 3 feet? The answer when we come back.
You're watching Fox 5's Monsoon Special, presented by Clark County Regional Flood Control. Water always wins.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you, how high does floodwater have to be before you lose control of your car? The answer is A, just 6 inches of water. If the water is moving quick enough, it can actually sweep away your car.
Before 1980, flooding was a major issue here in the valley. Every time it rained, streets turned into rivers, and underpasses like this would fill up like lakes. Now residents lived through this for decades until one storm changed everything.
Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the city of daytime sun and nighttime fun.
July 3rd, 1975. Started out with the sun shining.
I was working at the Flamingo. My boss called us all together and said, we're not opening the pool, we're going to be sandbagging the whole area.
The sun quickly faded and clouds started building over the mountains.
It was very threatening, just really dark. I called my wife at work and I said, you better stay where you are because this is serious.
According to the National Weather Service, thunderstorms dropped more than 3 inches of rain on the west side of town. With the valley's natural slope, all the water rushed towards the strip.
I saw the wall of water come down, disappear under the freeway, and then all of a sudden just came and filled the entire Caesars Palace lot.
700 cars were destroyed. Rushing water grew 20 feet high, causing $4.5 million in damage. In today's numbers, we're talking more than $21 million.
It was unbelievable. It was a sight you will never forget. This is the aftermath.
Back in the 80s, there was really no flood control in Las Vegas.
Before, you were on your own. But back in those days, you knew when there was a cloudburst, get off the road.
The flooding hit the entire valley, killing 2 men in North Las Vegas. It made national headlines and pushed the county to get serious about a solution.
Everybody knew us then and knew that we could flood and that we were something other than gambling.
When something like a flood happens to it, you know, that brings into clear focus some of the goals that need to be met to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Since 1985, the Regional Flood Control District has spent $2 billion to protect Clark County. 100 basins like the one you see behind me help to collect the rain, with more than 640 miles worth of flood channels and storm drains that run like veins beneath our city. To give you an idea how long that distance is, it's a distance between Las Vegas and Denver, Colorado. But those miles worth of facilities help ensure flooding remains a problem of the past.
It flooded frequently. It was impassable when it did flood.
For locals who were around in the 70s and 80s, it's not just the Caesars flood that sticks out in their memory.
The Charleston underpass pretty much flooded any time it rained.
We had so much fun. When this would fill up, we would go swimming. We knew it was the best pool in town. It was like having Wet and Wild in the city.
But it wasn't all fun and games.
And people would try and beat the bad weather. By the time the thing was full of water, it was all over. So the cars were floating or sunk.
In the late 90s, we started a project to fix that. What we had to do was really collect all of the water before it got to the underpass.
That was a really big deal that they started building these different flood controls.
Right now, only 75% of the overall flood plan is complete, but as Las Vegas continues to grow, so will the plans.
We have 34 basins left to construct and a little over 200 miles of channels and storm drains. Again, those numbers are probably going to grow a little bit.
Meaning their work to make us free from flooding is never done, but we get a little closer each day.
We didn't have anybody that cared or had any concern with that for so many years, and now they do, and it's really nice.
It's nice to know when it rains, all I have to do is put on my windshield wipers.
Regional Flood currently has 10 projects in the works, with the overall plan set to be complete in the next 20 to 30 years.
So how is flood control paid for? It's a sales tax, and tourists pay for the majority of it. With 43 million tourists a year, they spend a lot of money, and Regional Flood Control uses their tax dollars to fund projects. Other parts of the country are envious since they have to rely on federal funding or general funds, making the stream of money much less reliable. That makes it difficult to get projects built in a timely manner.
Believe it or not, Nevada receives the lowest average rainfall of any state, yet we experience frequent and significant flooding. One of the biggest reasons we experience flooding here in Las Vegas is where we're built. We live 2,000 feet above sea level on a mountain range. Las Vegas exists on what looks like the inside of a bowl, and as you can see here, rainwater flows down from the west side of the valley toward the east. Then there's Caliche. Much like this dried lake bed, doesn't absorb much water.
Between 1905 and 1975, there were 184 major flood events in Clark County.
And since 1955, 18 of those floods were declared federal disasters. In southern Nevada, there have been dozens of monsoon floods over the years, with several that really stand out. The most notable occurred 20 years ago on July the 8th, 1999. In just 90 minutes, between 1.5 inches and 3 inches of rain fell. Again, remembering where we're built and the soil that we live on top of, parts of Las Vegas ended up looking like a river was running through it. Streets and washes were overwhelmed, with one of the hardest hit areas being the Strip. 2 people died as a result of that storm, and firefighters from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue and Clark County performed more than 200 swiftwater rescues that day alone. That storm caused $25 million in damage in 1999 dollars. On August 2003, in the northwest part of the valley, a powerful storm dumped as much as 3 inches of rain on the Las Vegas area as well as in Henderson. The Flood Control District says that during that storm, 8,000 cubic feet of water per second was running through the flood channels into the wetlands, Lake Las Vegas, and eventually Lake Mead. That is a lot of water.
A box that can hold a basketball is about a cubic foot. So if you think about 8,000 of those boxes every second.
The 2.3 inches that fell in just 20 minutes overwhelmed existing flood control channels. Rushing water spilled over some of the channel areas and actually forced the closure of the southbound lanes of the US 95. That day, at least 50 people needed to be rescued, among them 4 firefighters who were plucked from their fire engine that became trapped by rising waters. Damage as a result of that storm was also in the millions. Another recent event occurred on July 1st, 2013, when a lightning strike in the Spring Mountains triggered a fire called Carpenter 1. That fire was contained to the mountains, but the fact that 28,000 acres of land was scorched created an easy path for water and debris to flow down the mountain in the event of heavy monsoonal storms and if they would break out. Well, that's exactly what happened. Mountain runoff, including water, mud, boulders, and dead vegetation, flowed into several nearby communities near the Spring Mountains. Cleanup from those storms took several weeks and also cost millions of dollars. Those are just 3 of the most notable monsoonal storms to hit our area in the last 20 years.
Let's talk about detention basins. They help capture water and then release it at a slower rate, but some also double as parks. Since the basins are dry 95% of the time, Regional Flood wanted people to be able to utilize them when not in use. There are a total of 15 multi-use detention basins that act like parks, rec areas, or golf courses when dry, but help to collect the water during storms. It's important to remember when it rains, for your safety, get out.
You've seen the flooding and damage that monsoon thunderstorms can bring. I'm taking you inside the future of forecast technology that we use to warn you about the storms ahead of time.
You're watching Fox 5's Monsoon Special, presented by Clark County Regional Flood Control. Water always wins.
Welcome back. I'm meteorologist Sam Argier on top of Nelson Peak. We're 20 miles south of Boulder City at an elevation of 4,800 feet overlooking the El Dorado Valley. And on top of Nelson Peak is the weather radar. During monsoon season, the radar is our first line of defense.
The radar allows us to be able to look inside the thunderstorms and assess its potency, essentially, or its strength, and determine then whether or not it's going to produce flash flooding or any type of winds that are over 50 miles an hour.
It works by sending out pulses of energy, looking for objects in the atmosphere. When it finds rain or hail, it sends a signal back to the radar. That's what we see on a map. The colors show the intensity. Green is light rain, red means heavy rain or hail. Right now, some of the heaviest of that rain right around Summerlin Parkway, pretty much west of 95 all the way to downtown Summerlin. That's what we use to track storms moving into your neighborhood. Outside the Las Vegas National Weather Service office, a weather balloon is blown up.
Balloon release in about 5 minutes. Thank you. We do balloons twice a day, every day, unless there is lightning in the area, because that's dangerous.
The weather balloon carries up an instrument called a radiosonde. The white box records the temperature, wind speed, pressure, and humidity as the balloon climbs up to 100,000 feet above the surface.
The parachute is so that once the balloon pops, eventually it'll get really high in the atmosphere and it pops, it can slowly drift down to Earth.
As the balloon rises, it's sending back live weather observations. We use that data to forecast active weather ahead of time.
If we have a lot of moisture, so this green line being further over towards 100%, it means the atmosphere is saturated. It's ripe for allowing really heavy rain that could potentially lead to active thunderstorms and potentially some flash flooding.
The main technology we use for forecasting are forecast models.
Cliff Mass is a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Washington in Seattle. For more than 20 years, his group has been running their own weather forecast models.
And what we do is we get all the observations from every different source. We bring them together and we create a three-dimensional description of the atmosphere. Then we have these models, and they're not physical models, they're computer simulation models that have the equations that describe the atmosphere, and these things predict what the future is going to look like.
This allows us to see how weather patterns are changing days in advance. As computer power has increased over the years, so has the accuracy of forecast models. While they have seen improvements, the one weak link is forecasting exactly where thunderstorms will form. That's where your smartphone may help improve the forecast in the future.
Many smartphones actually measure pressure. And there are a few apps that are collecting these pressures. The potential there is to get much finer detailed description of what the atmosphere is like. And that may, in fact, help us forecast thunderstorms better.
This technology is currently in development, but could be available in the next 5 to 10 years. This would bring forecasting during the monsoon to a whole new level.
But the question is, can we figure out things beforehand, before the thunderstorm develops? And this is where we're hoping that more detailed information from smartphones and other sources might give us an ability to do that, at least better than we're doing right now.
After the break, we'll take a look at the long-range forecast for the rest of summer.
Let's test your monsoon knowledge again. True or false? Most home insurance policies cover flooding. The answer after the break.
You're watching Fox 5's Monsoon Special, presented by Clark County Regional Flood Control. Water always wins.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you if most homeowner insurance policies cover flooding. The answer is actually false. Most policies don't. Flood insurance is bought separately.
Monsoon season is here, and the Climate Prediction Center is projecting more than a 50% probability of above average temperatures through August.
And when it comes to rainfall, there is a higher probability for above average rainfall in northern Nevada. But for us here in southern Nevada, we have equal chances for above or below average rainfall, meaning it could really go either way.
And conditions can change very quickly, so stay up to date with our Fox 5 News app. In our weather section, you'll even find interactive radar, and you can track the storms moving into your neighborhood.
And of course, you can always get the updated 7-day forecast, the latest watches and warnings for your neighborhood. Just search for Fox 5 Las Vegas in the App Store.
Thank you for joining us for this Fox 5 Monsoon Weather Special.
When storms pop up, we'll be in the Fox 5 Weather Center, keeping you up to date from the time you wake up in the morning
through the afternoon and evening,
and of course, over your weekend.
And remember, you can always be part of the team when you see weather happening in your neighborhood. Send us your pictures and video to our Fox 5 Facebook page, and they could end up live on air.